Well, it is a pleasure, and thank you very much once again for joining us on My Perspective. This is where we share critical, significant, challenging information on the issues and the matters that affect our core cognition, or we call them the core domains of life. Our cognitive aspect, our feelings, how we feel, our emotions, our behaviors, and our physical, call it the somatic. So the information that challenges us to think on a daily basis, the information that challenges us to reason, the reason we disagree with many but come to the point of agreement, is the kind of information that we bring to you, is the kind of information that we share. So that at the end of the day, in our difference in opinion and understanding, we can be able to reason positively and come up with issues, of course, that matter. My name is Makubuya. I am a clinical psychologist by profession. And of course, my nature of work sounds simple or difficult. I basically deal with people who are going through difficult and trying moments. People with depression, anxiety, people who are grieving, people who are going through trauma, people with suicidal ideation. In others, people, friends, colleagues who are going through issues that are causing them not to function normally. Today, I want to focus on one of the most important skills. I want to talk about a skill that I have seen professionals use, and it has given them results. I want to talk about a skill that I have seen most parents use, either knowing or unknowingly. This is a skill that will help you get results in the different areas of your life. This is a skill that will help you change many things that are happening around your life. This is a skill, regardless of the position, regardless of the age, regardless of tribe, regardless of how you think, regardless of how you feel, is a skill that you will know. In fact, personally, I have used this skill in many occasions and events, and I have seen it giving me results on a day-to-day basis. My perspective for today will focus on a very fundamental skill called validation. Validation, I could simply call it the point when you acknowledge somebody's faults, somebody's feelings, somebody's emotion, somebody's achievement, somebody's struggles, somebody's strive. Somebody has done something good. When you get to a point and recognize and acknowledge them, it is a skill I have seen people use. And I'm going to talk about 4 to 5 areas of this skill that I think is important. I'll talk about the self-validation. I'll talk about validation at the professional level. I'll talk about validation from a senior to a junior. I'll talk about validation from a junior to a senior. I'll talk about validation from within a home, because those areas of validation are actually very key. Let me begin with what we call self-validation. Many of us live in societies where people don't appreciate us. People don't recognize our struggles. People don't recognize our strength. People don't recognize what we are able to do. People don't recognize what we have been able to do. And so one of the things that will help you survive in such environment is for you to begin acknowledging who you are, for you to begin to acknowledging your struggles, for you to begin to acknowledging your thoughts, for you to begin to acknowledge your feelings, for you to begin to acknowledge what is it that you've been able to do. And so if you are surviving and thriving in society which does not actually pay attention to those core domains that I've actually talked about, so what will actually save you is you to get to the point and say, I think I am doing good. I think I am doing better. I think last year I didn't do it best, but today I've been able to refresh. Today I've done it in a better manner. Today I think I am progressing from one level to the other. That is very fundamental, because many times the society we thrive in, the people we stay with, the people around us may never recognize our strength. They may never recognize what we have been able to do. So one of the things that will help you as a parent, as a child, for you to be able to have the energy to press on and to another day and be able to go through the different stages of life, is when you come to a point and begin to acknowledge yourself as a person. I have discovered that whether people don't validate me, I have understood and studied the secret of validating myself. And so even when people don't validate what I do, many comments I see them, some validate and others don't. And so that does not move me. But the concept of self-validation is very, very significant if you are going to be able to deal with the core domains that I have actually talked about. Professional validation, I have many times been to court when probably this lawyer is making a submission before a judge. You will see a lawyer saying, yes, your worship, I thank you, your worship, you're right, your worship, your point is right. And you see when those kind of statements are made, you see the justice also responding in a positive manner, in a manner that believes in this person. And so whenever those skills have been present, in many times I've been to courts where the lawyer is acknowledging the judge for the good work, and then the judge is also acknowledging the good works of the lawyer. I see enthusiasm, I see progress, I see trust, I see motivation to press on. So even validation at professional level is very key. I know a friend of mine who is a medical doctor, that when a client turns up for a session, even when they are ill, this doctor tells them, thank you for turning up amidst the pains. Thank you for swallowing the medicine amidst the pains. Thank you that amidst the struggles, the trials, you have been able to turn up for the session. That I also use it in my clinical practice. You know, I don't take it for granted that when a client comes for a session, it is a must they should come. Some never turn up. And so when a client comes and turns up for a session, I must validate and appreciate them and say, thank you for coming. Amidst the pains, you've been able to turn up for the session. Thank you for swallowing the medicine. That amidst the pains, amidst the struggles, amidst the financial crisis, you have been able to purchase this medicine and you have actually gone ahead to take it. So I validate them. And you see, when you validate a patient, even when he came, when the smile is never available, you will see them smile. You will see them becoming enthusiastic. You will see them beginning to gain momentum and be able to continue moving forward. Validation is very, very fundamental. Let me talk about validation from the senior to the junior. And when I talk about the senior, I am talking about either you are a CEO in a company, you are a managing director, and below you are workers. Many times we don't acknowledge the efforts of the people that we lead, and that makes them powerless, that discourages them, that makes them hopeless, that gives them a negative attitude towards work. I know at one point I've ever worked in a place where, my goodness, this human resource, if their skills she lacked or he lacked, was the skill of not validating the people. And so we would work out of the negative. We would come to work because anyway we needed to survive and thrive. And thank God at an opportune time, many of us were able to leave the place and go. So the skills of validation is very, very important. If you are a CEO, you're a managing director, okay? There are people that you lead. The ability to recognize their efforts. The ability to recognize that they're able to turn up for work. The ability to recognize that, thank you, you the cleaner, that you are able to clean that place very well. Thank you that you are able to execute your work to the dot. Thank you that you are able to win this prize because of your effort. Thank you that amidst the struggles of no payments, you are able to turn up and give us the momentum to press on. That gives us the enthusiasm to work. Many of us have called them people that help us at our workplace. You see, all you do as a father, when you return home, the first thing you look up to are the things not done. Oh, you didn't mop this well. But little do you know that, call them the house helpers. These are people that take care of your children. These are people that make sure that your children have actually slept very well. These are people that feed your children. These are people that prepare food, meals for your children. These are people that dress them up. These are the people that make sure that when they are sick, they will actually run them to the hospital. These are the people that spend sleepless nights because they want to make sure that your children are actually better. What demotivates them is when we never validate their efforts. I want to speak from experience that at one point I was never validating the people I stay with, until at one point I spent 2 weeks when she had actually gone to have festive season I know what it means. I understood the struggle they go through. And at that point, I recognize that I must be able, when I have time, to also help them in one way or the other. This is my opinion. I don't know about you. But when we validate our junior, when we validate the people we stay with, when we validate the people that we actually lead, it motivates them. It gives them courage. It gives them the motivation. It gives them the enthusiasm. It keeps them moving, that they don't want to leave. It encourages them to be able to press on. That point of validation is very key. You could validate them through salary. You could validate them by saying thank you. You could validate by writing and saying thank you very much, that without you this wouldn't happen, but we've been able to attain this because of your efforts. They are also human beings that need to be appreciated. And now that is validation from that level. But also even us who are still being led by people, validation from, call them the junior, some of us who are still being led. It's very important for us to recognize the efforts of the people that care of us. If your boss has paid you very well, there are companies that don't pay. Many of them, it's key to value. Some say, why do I appreciate you? You were supposed to. Let me tell you, there are companies that don't pay. So the ability for the employer to pay you, this is my opinion, the aspect of appreciating them, acknowledging them, and thanking them for actually fulfilling their obligation is very key and very, very fundamental. And I want to wind up my levels of validation with family in the context of children, wife, and husband. This is one sphere with about 3 or 2 boundaries. The children. It is good for children to appreciate each other in a home. One of the reasons that there are prevailing conflicts within homes is children don't validate each other. All they do is to look at the weaknesses and the points. But if I'm able to validate my brother, my sister, and say, thank you that you did this. Thank you that your efforts was recognized. Thank you that your efforts made us get this model. That keeps us moving. Children must also begin to validate their parents by saying, thank you for paying fees, Daddy. Thank you that you made me go to school. Thank you that I've attained this degree because of your efforts. That brings enthusiasm, that gives them hope, that keeps them moving, so that at the end of the day, they can be able to continue walking through. And the final validation, which is the other very critical, is a wife and the husband. So wives, could you get to a point where you begin to acknowledge the efforts of your husband? The ability, if you're still renting, your husband is able to pay rent, is able to bring bread on table, is able to take children to school, is good enough for you to appreciate. The ability for him to fulfill the needs, both the visible and the invisible needs, successful, even when there are gaps. It's very critical that wives, we must validate the efforts of a husband. Recognizing them and say, my husband, thank you, my sweetheart, thank you that you have been able to avail this on table, is good enough, and that keeps us moving. But it is also important that husbands to validate your wives. Sometimes we think them staying home, they are not actually not doing anything. They are actually doing something. So the point to recognize that, my wife, thank you very much that you have been able to do this. Thank you very much that our children have been successful because of your efforts. Thank you very much that our children are healthy because of your hand. Thank you very much, you have done this, and so we've been able to attain this because of you. That is very critical. Fundamentally, the other last but not least is the validation that goes up. Our survival in our day-to-day life, much as we may think is dependent on us, but is dependent on that one who created you and gave you life. So everything, if there are things you should do on a daily basis, is to stand up and say, God, thank you. I have been able to get this wealth because of you. Thank you, God, that I have been able to get this degree because of you. Thank you that my child, my children, my wife, my family is healthy because of you. So the validation that also goes up is very key and very, very critical. This is a skill I have used. It's a skill I have seen people use. It's a skill that I've seen people use fundamentally, and they have gone from one place to the other. The skill of validation is one of those in our clinical practice we use, especially when we are recognizing and acknowledging the efforts made by our clients. I have seen many clients heal in my therapeutic session because of validating them. I have seen them take their medication because of validating them. I have seen them turn up then for sessions because of me validating them. I have seen them heal in the shortest time possible because I keep validating them. The aspect of acknowledging and recognizing their efforts, and the efforts of everybody whom we think makes a contribution, is very, very fundamental. This is my perspective, and I want to challenge you. Please make a subscription, make a comment, whether in agreement or in disagreement. That's very healthy and very important, but you could also like, so that we can have this information, of course, reach out to circulate within our day-to-day function. And the importance of this is so that the 5 core domains of life, our cognition, our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, our somatic, which is the physical, can change. And when we change those core domains, then our mental health is achieved. This is my perspective.